Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justyna Szklarzewicz, and I'm working at the Leicester General Hospital at the Renal Research Department. I work also closely with the IgA Nephropathy Research Group here at the Leicester University. And today I've been asked to give you a talk about what is involved in taking part in a clinical trial. So I will start from a bit overview, what clinical trials are, and I will talk you through some practicalities of participation. So what clinical trials are and why we need them. So there are studies involving, obviously, patients, people with particular disease, and they're looking at the new ways of treating patients, preventing the disease, or detect new ways of using existing treatments. We talk here also about the surgical procedures and some of the new devices. And the goal of these clinical trials is just to determine whether this treatment work, whether they are effective, whether they have any side effects. And the aim of this trial is obviously to improve quality of life and health of patients. So who can take part? We obviously can't recruit everyone to a clinical trial. Main inclusion criteria will be anyone who has at least 18 years old of age, have a diagnosis, in this instance IgA nephropathy, and each study protocol will have exclusive unique criteria, which we call eligibility criteria. And I think Dr. Chang already mentioned some of them. You will need to have the biopsy-proven IgA nephropathy, have the certain level of kidney function, the level of proteins in your urine, as well as current medication play a role here, as well as any other comorbidities you may have. And the very important part of the whole research process is informed consent. And why do we need consent? It's just to make sure you're fully informed and you understand what the participation in a trial involves. So you will be presented with a patient information sheet which will describe the study purpose, will explain what the medication under study is, and will show also risks and benefits, how we will collect this data. You will be shown the visit schedule and study team contact details, and this will be repeated many times to you that participation in a clinical trial is always a voluntary participation, and you may withdraw at any time without giving a reason. So here is a crucial to think how much time you can commit actually to do the trial, because coming for a frequent visit might be taking a lot of your time, and here is just up to you to decide wherever you can actually fit a trial around your commitments. So some of the practicalities here. So research can happen in any place nowadays, really. We can see you at the research hospital, we can see you at the health center, university, and now more and more at your own home, because we are able to provide nursing services that will come and visit you at your own home and do the study visits. This person, usually a nurse, will be responsible for collecting all assessments, blood samples, urine samples, and those will be sent to the external laboratory. And then all documentation related to that particular visit will be sent over to the main site for checking for errors. As I mentioned before, some of the trials can take more time, or others will take maybe 10-15 minutes of your time during a day. We're talking mainly here about the survey studies, which you can do at your home. Other studies, for example, phase 2 study will involve lots of other tests and more blood sampling around the metabolism of the drug. So you might need to take this into consideration, as I said before. We will always try to fit around your own commitments. So do ask if you have any problems with scheduling the visit. We are here to help you and support you throughout the whole way. we offer, it's not like we offer, the sponsors offer often now incentives for taking part in research, and travel expenses are always provided, refreshments for the duration of the study visit, taxis, overnight stays. And what I need to say here, you don't need to be a local here from Leicester to take part in a clinical trial. If the trial is not running in your very own kidney centre, you can always come to us and ask questions where you can take part in research. We will be able to give you advice where we did the closest centre, or you may as well come to Leicester. Some of the visits will need to happen in Leicester, others can happen at your home, wherever if the service is available on that particular trial. So don't be afraid to ask. Currently we have patients from London, Birmingham, and recently patient completed trial who was traveling all the way down from Glasgow. So if you will feel at any point during a trial that this is getting too much and you're not happy with what you're getting, you can always, as I said before, withdraw your consent without providing a reason, and your future care won't be affected at all. So you might ask the question, how do we know the treatments are safe? So as mentioned before by Dr. Chang, all drugs are tested in several stages. We call them phases. We have the preclinical phase, where only involving analysis in the labs. Then the drug is tested for safety in animals. Then we have phase 1, which is the first time used in human. Then phase 2 is used to find out whether the drug works, whether it's safe, and what the side effects are. And this is all accumulating data throughout all these stages. And then phase 3 and 4 always involve a large number of people and designed to follow up for a longer period of times, and comparing this new treatment with existing treatments in the long term. So how the trials are designed, I think Chike touched briefly on that, and we have various trials. Sometimes we have most of the time randomized controlled trials, and you might be randomized to a group of patients who will receive the standard treatment, which is a treatment currently in use, or receiving a treatment which is from a clinical trial. And then no one will know what you are taking until the results are published. And normally there is a process. You will be notified about the medication you are taking throughout the study, but this takes time. So obviously after the results are published, then we are able to disseminate this to the patients. And if you don't receive a new medication, it doesn't mean that you are worse off. You will be constantly monitored by the study team. So any changes in your kidney function, any changes in your blood results, urine results, this will be spotted immediately and the action will be taken. So as also mentioned before, some of the trials actually use the placebo. So there is a new medication in one arm. On the second arm is a placebo, and the placebo is matching the medication under investigation, so it looks exactly the same. There's no difference whatsoever, only this, that it is designed to have no effect at all. And this is just to avoid bias and provide the reliable results of the trial. So going forward with the risks and benefits, and of course many of you will be worried about that, but as I said before, the trials are tested, the medication is tested before it gets to the human participants, and nowadays the trials are designed in a way that will maximize the benefit and minimize any risk, and more risks are associated with the medication which are quite unknown, and no one actually can predict what side effect. In some cases it will be difficult to predict what the side effects will be. So anything new that you will report to your study team will be written down, and we're providing feedback to the study sponsor that this is something new and it wasn't listed in the patient information sheets before. And if we get this consistently across many patients, then it will be listed as a possible side effect of a treatment. So it's again about the randomized controlled trials. The most commonly used, you are allocated by in random by a computer system. So all this process is done by a study nurse or a study team who will input to the computer your EGFR levels, level of proteinuria, the list of current medication, and this will stratify and allocate you a number which will be presented on your prescription. Therefore, the prescription is going to the pharmacy and the drug gets dispensed. So you sign the informed consent, you've been through the screening visit, you fulfill all eligibility criteria for this particular trial, and you might wonder what's next. So next will be regular appointments as per protocol and a visit schedule. You will see your study team regularly, as I said. It might be in the hospital. You might request to see study nurses at your own home. You will have several blood tests being taken, regular urine samples. Unfortunately, for all IgA patients, we ask for 24-hour urine collections quite a lot, which that's why we have the incentive payments for this inconvenience, because it's a quite long process for each patient to go through. And again, we will continue to assess for any potential side effects. Even simple headache is very important. You might think, oh, I have headache, there's nothing to report here. But it's very important because if increased in severity or frequency, we need to be aware of it, and then this needs to be documented properly. You will be seeing a doctor frequently, and it's usually the kidney doctor who often is the person who referred you for a trial. You might as well fill out some questionnaires, and you will be sent for various other tests, for example, ECG or MRI scan. So it's quite a lot of going on during any trial. There's lots of assessments. We schedule some of the assessments in other departments through referrals, so they not always coincide with your scheduled study visit, because MRI scan, for example, is difficult to schedule at the same time because it takes time and is in different building, etc. So you just need to bear in mind that there's a lot of organization going on in the background. So there will be various people supporting you during the study. Main people, research assistants who often organize the study visits, collecting data on the paper, on electronic databases. Research nurse here is a very diverse role, from taking a sample, processing samples, sending them to external laboratories. It's your direct link between yourself and the study doctor. And of course, you have principal investigator, who is usually a kidney doctor, who will oversee the whole process in that particular hospital for this particular trial. And we're talking here about everything from the study conduct to the safety issues. And there is a chief investigator, who is the top person in a country, who will oversee the project as a whole in all hospitals across UK. And you might wonder what's happening after a trial. So as mentioned before, trials take a long time. Usually the participation is around 1 year, 2 years. It all depends on the study design. Then the patients are followed up for a certain amount of time until all data is collected from all sites across the globe. The data is analyzed, and obviously the results are published and presented at the various conferences. There will be time that your results will be unblinded, and we will be able to explain to you what these results mean and what treatment allocation you were on. And so obviously this will be after the end of trial in all sites across the globe, as I said before. What if you can't take part in any clinical trial and you still would like to be involved in research? You might not quite fit eligibility criteria for clinical trial. You might not have enough time to do one. So there are lots of different ways you can be involved, and here are the main projects actually we are working on, and we always encourage people to take part in those projects so that we can collect as best data as possible for you to obviously being able to feed this back to all other companies who then develop all these amazing drugs for you. So there is a RADAR, which is Registry of Rare Kidney Conditions, and I'm sure most of you are already on this project. So simply you sign in informed consent, providing your email address. And this works very closely with the Patient Knows Best website, so the database. So all results that you see on the Patient Knows Best will be directly flowing to the RADAR system, and the results will be populated. There is like a huge library of all patients with the rare renal conditions, including IgA nephropathy patients. So then we have NIHR Bioresource Study. It's a study which is actually looking at the genes contributing to the IgA nephropathy. And this study involves signing consent and taking one-off blood sample. You might be invited for the further research by signing to any of these projects, really. And then further research will be done, and you will be asked to come back to collect more samples. And the analysis of protein expression patterns in human kidney disease. Some of you actually help us out with this trial already. The samples are analyzed here at the Leicester University. Occasionally, samples are sent to external laboratories across UK, Europe, and any other parts of the world. So when you sign the consent to this trial, you're giving us a permission to look at your biopsy, meaning it's the leftovers. We're not asking you to donate another sample, and we will take some blood, urine, fecal samples, or oral and nasal swabs, and saliva samples. And this all will be analyzed just to understand disease a bit better. So if you would like to take part in any of these projects, please do get in touch with us, or leave your name and contact number. Then we can arrange you to come down for these projects. Do you have any questions? Thank you for listening.
So just a question on recruitment into clinical trials. And aside from eligibility criteria, based on your experience, what are the main challenges to getting patients to enroll?
So actually, patients are not much aware of clinical trials currently running. So we do tend to have a bit issues surrounding the recruitment. So to some trials, it's much easier to recruit than to others. And it also depends on the fact, like, what group of patients we're working on, what the level of EGFRs are. And if we're talking about higher levels of EGFRs, it usually gets more problematic to recruit. And all patients with the lower levels of GFR would like to be involved, but we can. This is not allowed by most of the protocols. So therefore, these patients are unfortunately excluded.
Thank you.
Mine's not a question about. Yeah, mine's not a question about actually being on the trial. It's a question about when you're seeking participants to be on the trial. And my question really is, how do you get an appropriate balance on the trial in terms of gender, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of age profile. And certainly in a city like Leicester, which has the ethnic diversity we have here, how do you reach out to people who speak English not as a first language?
Right, that's a good question. Actually, this poses a lot of challenges, I would say, and we currently will be working on the trial actually where we requested from the study sponsors to the patient information leaflet to be transcribed to other language. And it's quite challenging. I think we're hitting more Caucasians, even here in Leicester. There is a general fear that we will do more harm than help. And I think Asian communities are struggling to accept clinical trials. However, I would say for the last few years, this is changing a bit, and we do have some patients with other ethnicities as well. But we reach out to every potential patient that we think fits the eligibility criteria, and then it's up to patient, obviously, to decide whether to participate or not.
Any other questions?
So I suppose with that point of recruitment, I'm a trustee of a charity in Northern Ireland, and I wonder, is there the ability for charities, kidney charities, to support that in any way by, I don't know, advertising or helping with that recruitment process? Because we have a base of people with renal disease.
Well, so it all depends if the local hospital is actually taking part in this research. It will be hard for this to be advertised if the hospital is not taking part in a clinical trial. We need to be careful here. Without any ethical approval, we can't advertise anything on social media. So as you can see, our IgA Nephropathy support group on Facebook doesn't advertise any trials simply because this is not ethically approved. But we do have some trials which can be advertised on the social media. So as I said, we had often the hospitals where, for example, this patient who was coming all the way down from Glasgow, there was no trials at all, and he decided that he can commit this time and can fly over each month for a study visit. And on one occasion, even I went to Glasgow to deliver a study visit. So there are lots, if you really want to be involved, there are the ways we can support the whole process, definitely.
So I think the bottom line is, if anyone's interested in a trial, or in Ireland, if there are people, just get them to get in touch with us, because myself and Chike will know any trial that's happening in the UK or Ireland, north or south, and we'll know the investigators, so we can map for locality. So what we've done in the past is we've simply listed the trials that are open with no preference and no please will you be involved as a statement of fact, because there are very tight regulations. We cannot encourage people to be involved in trials without everything being approved. So I think the best way to do it is, if anyone needs signposting, they just need to email me or Chike or Justyna, and we can then say, and I've got 2-3 patients in Scotland currently looking at things, because there are no centres open in Scotland for clinical trials at the moment, but we're trying to change that. So, but there are lots of opportunities.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to say that maybe an idea could be there were 2 websites, I think, that they showed to us, where you can put a postcode and then find a clinical trial. So maybe disseminating that information and advertising those websites would be a good idea, so people can find out.
Yes, yeah, you are right. It's on the trials.gov. All trials need to be registered there before we can actually start recruiting to those. So that's exactly a good idea to go and say. But not many patients are aware as well of that website. So
the irony is, through that NephCure, I've got contacted more by people in America asking me where I can get involved in a trial than from the UK. But it is a real challenge finding out where you can go for your local site to be involved in a study. But the most important thing is you just ask.
Yeah, I did have some patient recently, actually, well, a doctor inquiring from France to bring the patient over from France, or how we can treat this patient over there to recruit to that particular trial. So that's, it's really, the interest is out there, definitely. And if the people know how to look, we're getting lots of emails like that.
Got the next question. Justyna, you said something about people with lower EGFRs not being recruited quite so much, perhaps, and Chike mentioned the lack of research in people with an EGFR of under 35, and I think, John, you said something about over 45s being mostly in trials, and I wondered if you foresaw a change in that situation then, because it seems a bit odd that the people who are most likely to move to costly dialysis treatments are the ones with the least research happening there.
So all the studies are recruiting a very small number of people between 20 and 30. But as you can imagine, those slots, and we're talking only about 20 slots out of potentially 400, are taken almost immediately because there is so much demand. So the regulators very much want us to study everyone with IgA. But the challenge comes, the lower you get in terms of kidney function, the more likely you are to potentially have side effects from the drugs. So there's a safety concern. But you're absolutely right, we do need to look at these therapies in people with lower levels of kidney function. And I think that's going to naturally happen. Because once I can prescribe a drug through the NHS, we've got wriggle room. Even though NICE might say you can only prescribe it between this level of kidney function and this, as Chike knows, that's a guide. So we can have local discussions and we can come up and say, look, we think we should be able to prescribe it to this person, and our own unit will be able to potentially support that. So you will see naturally that there will be spread over who is getting these drugs. And we're already giving some of these drugs on a compassionate use to people with, for instance, recurrent disease and kidney transplantation. So where there's a will, there is often a way. And again, it's all just about making the right connections.
So I'm just understanding from that, so people who have a transplant are not excluded from these trials?
They are excluded
They are
from
excluded.
the IgA nephropathy trials, but what we're desperately wanting to do, and we are almost there, is have studies of these new drugs in patients who have IgA back in the kidney transplant.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to do
So
those
they're
studies.
seen as a separate group.
They're seen as a separate group because you're already taking very strong tablets to stop the kidney from being rejected. And therefore there's a completely different issue around safety that we need to think about.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was great.